What if I told you that you are sabotaging your own garden by planting too many seeds? Yes, you heard that right. You are actually killing your cucumber harvest because you are being too greedy with your space. Welcome back to the channel, garden lovers. Today we are diving into the ultimate champion scheme for planting cucumbers. We are going to reveal the exact secret to growing those dense, green, incredibly bushy cucumbers that you usually only see in gardening magazines. I'm going to share a surprising truth with you today. By the end of this video, you will learn why throwing away half of your seedlings might be the best decision you will ever make for your garden. It sounds crazy, right? Conventional wisdom tells us that more plants equal more vegetables. But that is the biggest lie in the gardening world. Are you brave enough to cut your plant count in half? Let me know in the comments right now if you prefer planting densely or if you give your plants plenty of room to breathe. To truly understand this champion scheme, we need to take a quick trip back in time. For generations, traditional backyard gardeners used what we call the jungle method. They would dig a shallow trench, toss in a handful of seeds, and just let everything crawl wildly over the ground. It looked like a tangled green monster. Back then, people thought this was the safest way to guarantee a harvest, because surely bugs or weather would destroy at least half of the plants. But as modern agricultural science evolved, commercial farmers realized they were losing massive amounts of money and yield to this chaotic method. They discovered that cucumbers are actually highly competitive and territorial plants. When they are crowded, they panic. This realization led to the development of precision spacing and vertical trellising. The champion scheme we are discussing today was born from commercial greenhouses, where every single inch of space is calculated for maximum profit and health. Now we are bringing this professional, highly guarded secret straight to your home backyard. Let us start by breaking down one of the biggest myths in the gardening community. The myth is that a dense, thick wall of green leaves means you have a healthy, productive cucumber patch. This could not be further from the truth. In reality, that dense jungle is a sign of extreme stress. When you plant 4, 5, or even 6 cucumber bushes in a single meter, the plants immediately sense the competition. Their survival instinct kicks in. Instead of putting their energy into creating beautiful, juicy fruits, they put all their energy into growing massive leaves and stretching their vines as fast as possible to reach the sunlight. They are literally racing each other to the top. A perfect illustration of this is a marathon race where hundreds of people are trying to squeeze through a tiny doorway at the same time. Everyone gets stuck, people get trampled, and nobody wins. When you overcrowd your cucumbers, you are forcing them into a marathon through a tiny door. You end up with miles of useless green vines, massive leaves, and almost zero actual cucumbers. The champion scheme stops this race immediately. So what exactly is the champion scheme? Let us get straight to the golden rule. For optimal, record-breaking yields, you should plant exactly 2, or an absolute maximum of 3, cucumber bushes per 1 linear meter. Yes, just 2 or 3 plants. I know it feels wrong to leave so much empty soil when you are planting your tiny seedlings. Your brain is telling you to fill the gaps, but you must resist that urge. When you limit your spacing to just 2 to 3 plants per meter, you are doing something magical for the root systems. Cucumber roots are incredibly shallow, but they spread out very wide. They do not dive deep into the earth like tomatoes do. Instead, they fan out like a giant spider web just under the surface of the soil. By giving them a full ½ meter of space each, their root webs never overlap or fight. They have a private, exclusive buffet of water and nutrients all to themselves. This lack of underground stress translates directly into rapid, healthy growth above the ground. Now, let us talk about the invisible enemy of every dense cucumber garden, which is poor air circulation. When you leave only 2 to 3 bushes per metre, you are creating an invisible highway for the wind to pass through your garden. Why is this so critical? Because cucumbers sweat. They transpire a massive amount of water through their giant leaves every single day. If you have 5 plants jammed together in 1 metre, that moisture gets trapped deep inside the foliage. It creates a hot, humid, sticky microclimate. And you know what loves a hot, sticky microclimate? Fungal diseases. Powdery mildew, downy mildew, and root rot thrive in those exact conditions. A great way to picture this is hanging wet laundry in a damp, dark closet versus hanging it outside on a breezy clothesline. In the closet, it gets mouldy. Outside, it dries perfectly. The champion spacing turns your garden into a breezy clothesline. The wind flows freely between the stems, drying the leaves after a rainstorm and making it physically impossible for fungal spores to settle and multiply. Another crucial element of the champion scheme is sunlight penetration. Cucumbers are absolute sun worshippers. Every single leaf on the plant is a solar panel that generates the energy needed to push out heavy, water-filled fruits. When you plant too many bushes per metre, the plants create a canopy that completely blocks the sun from reaching the lower and middle sections of the vine. The lower leaves get trapped in deep shade. When a leaf is in the shade, it stops producing energy and actually becomes a drain on the plant's resources. Eventually, it turns yellow and dies. By sticking to our champion rule of 2 to 3 plants per metre, you ensure that sunlight hits almost the entire length of the vine. From the bottom near the soil, all the way to the top of your trellis, the leaves are bathing in sunlight. This means the plant is operating at 100% energy capacity. It uses that abundant solar energy to produce female flowers at almost every single node, guaranteeing a continuous, heavy harvest. Of course, this spacing scheme requires you to grow your cucumbers vertically. You cannot leave just 2 plants per metre and let them crawl on the ground. That defeats the whole purpose. You must train them up a trellis, a string, or a net. When you combine vertical growing with the 2 plants per metre rule, you unlock the true secret of bushy cucumbers. Because they have so much horizontal room to breathe and so much vertical room to climb, the main stem becomes incredibly thick and strong. Think of it like a water pipe. A thick, sturdy main stem can pump massive amounts of water and nutrients from the soil up to the highest fruits. If the plants are crowded, the stems grow thin and weak, like fragile little straws. A weak stem simply cannot support the weight of a heavy harvest. The champion scheme ensures your vines grow as thick as a thumb, capable of carrying dozens of heavy cucumbers at the same time without snapping under the pressure. Let us look at a specific maintenance step that makes this spacing work perfectly. It is called blinding the bottom nodes. Even with the perfect spacing of 2 or 3 bushes per metre, you need to manage the bottom of the plant. For the first 4 or 5 leaves from the soil level, you must pinch off every single flower, every tiny cucumber and every side shoot. You blind the plant at the bottom. This might break your heart because you are destroying potential cucumbers, but it is vital. By doing this, you force the plant to focus all its early energy into building a massive, deep root system instead of trying to grow a tiny cucumber when it is still a baby. Plus, keeping the bottom 40 centimetres completely bare of fruit and side shoots guarantees that no leaves are touching the wet soil. This creates a brilliant buffer zone that stops soil-borne diseases from splashing up onto the plant when it rains. It is the ultimate insurance policy for your champion harvest. As your champion-spaced plants grow taller, you have to manage the side shoots, also known as lateral branches. Because your plants have so much space, they will try to grow bushy side branches everywhere. This is where the secret of truly bushy cucumbers comes into play. You do not want a chaotic bush. You want a controlled, productive bush. The best technique here is the upside-down Christmas tree method. On the lower half of the plant, you let the side shoots grow out just enough to produce one cucumber and one leaf, and then you pinch off the tip. In the middle of the plant, you let the side shoots grow out to produce 2 cucumbers and 2 leaves, then pinch. At the very top, where there is maximum sunlight, you let them grow out to 3 cucumbers. This creates a beautiful tapered shape. Because you only have 2 or 3 plants per meter, these side shoots have plenty of room to stretch out without tangling into the neighbouring plant. This creates incredible density of fruit, not just a density of useless leaves. Now let us talk about feeding and watering, because the champion scheme completely changes the game here. When you have a crowded bed with 5 or 6 plants per meter, watering becomes a nightmare. You pour gallons of water into the soil, but the tangled mass of roots drinks it up instantly, leaving the plants thirsty again by midday. Furthermore, trying to get fertilizer evenly distributed is impossible. But with our champion spacing, everything becomes highly efficient. Because there are only 2 or 3 root systems sharing that meter of soil, they do not have to fight for resources. When you apply a high-quality organic compost or a liquid potassium fertilizer, you know exactly where it is going. Every single drop is utilized efficiently by the plant. Imagine trying to feed a flock of 50 starving pigeons with 1 piece of bread. It is chaos. Now imagine taking 2 prize-winning horses and giving them a bucket of premium oats each. They grow strong, calm, and healthy. Your cucumbers are those prize-winning horses. Feed them right in their designated space. Another massive advantage of this spacing method is the ease of harvesting. If you have ever tried to harvest a tangled jungle of cucumbers, you know exactly how frustrating it is. You get scratched by the prickly vines, you cannot see where you are stepping, and worst of all, you always miss cucumbers. A cucumber hidden in a dense canopy will grow into a massive yellow bitter blimp in just 3 days. And when a cucumber plant successfully produces mature seeds inside one of those giant yellow fruits, it sends a chemical signal to the rest of the plant to stop producing new flowers. It thinks its life cycle is complete. The champion scheme prevents this entirely. With just 2 plants per meter, grown vertically, the cucumbers hang down visibly like ornaments on a tree. You can spot every single one instantly. You will never miss a harvest, which means the plant never stops producing new flowers. It is a continuous cycle of picking and growing that lasts all summer long. You might be wondering if this rule changes depending on where you are growing. Let us compare greenhouse growing to outdoor open garden beds. In a greenhouse, space is expensive and humidity is naturally much higher. Because there is no natural wind inside a glass or plastic house, the airflow is terrible. Therefore, in a greenhouse, you must absolutely stick strictly to 2 plants per meter. Never more. If you push it to 3 or 4, you will create a moisture trap that will rot your crop in a week. However, if you are growing outside in a very hot, dry and windy climate, you have a tiny bit more flexibility. The intense sun and constant breeze mean you can comfortably push it to 3 plants per meter. maybe even slightly staggering them in a zigzag pattern along the trellis. The zigzag pattern allows the roots to offset slightly while still sharing the same linear meter. But regardless of inside or outside, the golden rule remains: give them room to become champions. Let us talk about the specific types of cucumbers that thrive perfectly in this champion scheme. Not all seeds are created equal. If you are using this highly controlled, spacious method, you want to use modern, parthenocarpic varieties. That is a fancy scientific word that simply means the plant does not need bees or insects to pollinate its flowers to produce fruit. Every flower is female, and every flower automatically turns into a cucumber. These varieties are incredibly prolific. Because they produce so much fruit, they require a massive amount of energy and nutrients. If you plant parthenocarpic varieties closely together, they will quickly starve each other and drop their baby cucumbers onto the ground. The champion spacing of 2 per meter provides the exact luxury of space and soil volume these high-performance hybrids need to reach their genetic potential. You are essentially pairing a high-performance sports car with a smooth, wide-open highway. What happens when you ignore this scheme? Let us paint a picture of a typical gardening disaster. Say you plant 5 bushes in 1 meter. For the first 3 weeks, everything looks fantastic. The seedlings are cute, the green is vibrant. But by week 5, the nightmare begins. The leaves start overlapping like scales on a fish. The soil underneath never dries out, becoming a breeding ground for fungus gnats and slugs. Then the heat wave hits. Because the root systems are tiny and tangled, they cannot draw up enough water to cool the massive canopy of leaves. The plants wilt drastically every afternoon. The cucumbers that do manage to grow are deformed, curved like a boomerang, or bloated on one end. Why? Because the plant is pulling water and nutrients away from the fruit to try and save its dying leaves. It is a desperate struggle for survival. The champion scheme completely eliminates this cycle of boom and bust. It offers steady, calm, and consistent growth, no matter what the weather does. Let us address a common fear that beginners have. They look at the seed packet, which often says there are 30 seeds inside. They have a 2-meter trellis. The math tells them to just dump all 30 seeds along the trellis, so nothing goes to waste. Please, do not fall for the seed packet trap. Seed companies want you to use lots of seeds so you buy more next year. You have to be ruthless. Plant your seeds in small pots first. Let them grow into strong little seedlings. Then, select only the absolute strongest, thickest, healthiest 4 or 6 seedlings to plant along your 2-meter trellis. Give the rest of the seedlings to your neighbours, or simply toss them in the compost bin. It feels like a waste in May, but in August, when you are harvesting buckets of crisp, sweet cucumbers every single morning, you will realise that discarding the weak plants was the smartest investment you ever made. Quality always beats quantity when it comes to planting density. Let us dive deeper into the structure of the cucumber leaf itself to understand why spacing is so vital. A cucumber leaf is wide and slightly fuzzy, designed to catch as much morning dew and sunlight as possible. But it is also highly susceptible to sunburn if it gets wet in the middle of the day. When plants are crowded, the leaves rest on top of each other. Moisture gets trapped between 2 overlapping leaves. When the hot midday sun hits that trapped water, it acts like a magnifying glass, literally boiling and burning a hole right through the leaf tissue. This dead spot becomes an open wound for bacterial infections to enter. By maintaining the champion spacing, you ensure that every leaf hangs naturally in its own space. They flutter individually in the breeze. They dry off evenly. You are essentially giving each leaf its own personal umbrella of space, protecting the delicate cellular structure from burns and infections. This keeps the plant green and healthy far into the late season. Another brilliant aspect of the Champion spacing scheme is how it allows you to lower the vines later in the season. Cucumbers are incredibly fast growers. Even on a tall trellis, they will eventually reach the top and have nowhere to go. If you have a crowded jungle, fixing this is impossible. But with only 2 plants per meter, you can carefully untie the main stem from the trellis, gently coil the bare bottom section of the vine on top of the soil like a sleeping snake, and lower the whole plant down. This brings the fresh, growing tip back down to eye level so it can keep climbing and producing. You can only perform this coiling technique if you have plenty of empty soil space around the base of the plant. The Champion scheme provides this exact empty space. By lowering the vines, you can extend your harvest well into the autumn months, long after your neighbours have ripped their dead, crowded plants out of the ground. Let us talk about the concept of plant psychology. It sounds silly, but plants respond to their environment just like animals do. When a cucumber plant detects the chemical signals of other cucumber roots invading its space, it goes into an emergency reproductive mode. It tries to push out a few quick seeds before it gets choked out. The resulting cucumbers are often small, bitter, and full of hard seeds. We do not want emergency cucumbers. We want luxury cucumbers. When a plant senses that it has a massive radius of rich, unoccupied soil around it, its chemical signals change. It realizes it has a long, prosperous life ahead of it. It takes its time. It builds thick, crisp flesh. It stores high amounts of sugars and water inside the fruit. This is the secret to that perfectly sweet, crunchy snap when you bite into a fresh cucumber straight from the garden. The Champion scheme literally tricks the plant into feeling like a king, and it rewards you with royal quality fruit. Now, what about companion planting within this scheme? You might think that because you are only putting 2 cucumber plants per meter, you are wasting a lot of bare soil underneath. This is actually a fantastic opportunity if you use it wisely. Because the bottom 40 centimeters of your Champion cucumbers are pruned and bare, the soil gets plenty of dappled sunlight. You can plant low-growing, shallow-rooted companions right at the base. Radishes are perfect. They grow incredibly fast, do not steal deep nutrients, and are harvested before the cucumbers get too massive. Basil is another excellent choice. The strong scent of basil helps confuse pests that are looking for your cucumbers, and it thrives in the slight shade provided by the cucumber canopy above. So you are not actually losing growing space. You are creating a layered, 3-dimensional garden ecosystem that is far more productive and pest-resistant than a single tangled row of crowded vines. Let us do the final math on the yield, because numbers do not lie. Let us say a gardener uses the old crowded method and plants 10 bushes in a 2-meter space. They might get 50 tiny, misshapen cucumbers before the whole patch collapses from powdery mildew in late July. Now you use the Champion scheme. You plant exactly 4 bushes in that same 2-meter space. Because they are perfectly spaced, properly fed, and free of disease, each plant easily produces 30 to 40 beautiful, large cucumbers. That is over 120 perfect cucumbers from just 4 plants, and they will keep producing all the way until the first frost. You have tripled your overall harvest by planting less than half the number of seeds. You save money on seeds. You save money on fertilizer. You save hours of frustrating labor trying to untangle vines. and you get a vastly superior crop. The math definitively proves that less really is more in the garden. There is also a significant reduction in pest pressure when you use this method. Spider mites and aphids love dense, dry, crowded foliage. They hide on the undersides of the leaves, where sprays and predators cannot reach them. In a crowded bed, an aphid infestation can spread from one end to the other in 48 hours because the leaves are touching, creating a perfect little bridge for them to walk across. By strictly leaving space between your plants, you are breaking those bridges. If one plant gets a few aphids, they are isolated. Ladybugs and predatory wasps, which are the good guys in your garden, have a clear flight path to swoop in and eat the pests. Plus, if you need to use an organic neem oil spray, the open champion spacing allows you to easily coat the underside of every single leaf. You have total control over the environment, making pest management incredibly easy and effective. Ultimately, adopting the champion scheme requires a shift in your mindset. Gardening is often driven by a mindset of scarcity. We are afraid seeds will not germinate. We are afraid bugs will eat our plants, so we overcompensate by planting way too much. But to be a master gardener, you must move to a mindset of abundance and trust. Trust the science of spacing. Trust that a single, healthy, well-supported plant has the genetic power to feed your entire family. By stepping back, giving your plants the royal treatment of space, and maintaining strict discipline with your pruning and trellising, you elevate your gardening from a chaotic hobby to a precise, highly rewarding craft. You will no longer be hoping for a good harvest. You will be mathematically guaranteeing a champion harvest every single time you put a seed in the ground. And there you have it, the ultimate secret to growing the best cucumbers of your life. The champion scheme proves that in the garden, greed is your worst enemy. By taking a deep breath and deliberately planting only 2 or 3 bushes per meter, you unlock a cascade of benefits. You eliminate root competition. You destroy the environment that fungal diseases need to survive. And you give every single leaf the solar power it craves. The biggest plot twist of all is that by trying to grow less, you actually end up hauling baskets full of heavy, perfect cucumbers into your kitchen for months on end. It is a complete game changer that saves you time, money, and frustration. Thank you so much for watching and learning with us today. If this spacing secret blew your mind, or if it finally explained why your cucumbers always fail in August, please hit that like button right now. It really helps the channel grow. Do not forget to subscribe so you never miss out on our advanced gardening techniques. Now, I want to hear from you. Are you going to try the 2 plants per meter rule this season? Or are you still nervous about pulling up those extra seedlings? Drop a comment below and let us debate the best gardening strategies together.